Humanity has always tried to reach God. We built towers that touched the clouds, raised empires that ruled the earth, and carved our names into stone so we would never be forgotten. Every generation, in its own way, has searched for something greater, something beyond the limits of flesh and time. But one king chose a different path. He did not try to climb up to heaven. He did not try to prove his power through conquest or war. Instead, he decided to build a place where heaven could come down. There would be no noise, no hammer striking iron, no echo of tools shaping stone, only silence, as if the entire land understood that something sacred was unfolding. Thousands of workers moved in careful precision, shaping materials far from the site, preparing each piece before it ever touched the foundation. 70,000 carriers, the 80,000 stonecutters, and countless craftsmen worked for years, all focused on a single purpose. Not for a throne, not for wealth, not even for legacy. They were building for the presence of God. And then, after 7 long years, the moment finally arrived. The doors were opened. The priests stepped inside. The air grew heavy with expectation. And what happened next was something no one could have prepared for. Because when the temple was complete, God did not remain distant. He came. This is the story of the Temple of Solomon. Before the temple, there was a man who almost built it. His name was David, a warrior, king, a man who rose from nothing to rule a nation. He faced giants and won. He fought battles no one else would fight. And somehow, against all odds, he became the greatest king Israel had ever known. But there was one thing he had never done. He had never built a house for God. One night, surrounded by the comfort of his palace, David looked around and realized something that didn't sit right with him. He was living in luxury, in a house made of cedar, while the presence of God remained in a simple tent. And in that moment, he made a decision. He would build a temple, not small, not ordinary, something worthy of God. At first, it seemed like the perfect idea. Even the prophets supported him. Everything pointed to yes. But that night, everything changed. God spoke, and the answer was no. Not because the temple was a bad idea, not because David lacked vision, but because of who he was. You have shed too much blood. The words must have hit like a weight he couldn't lift. After everything he had done, after every battle he had fought, this was the one thing he would never be allowed to finish. Imagine that. Building a kingdom, but not the one thing that truly mattered. But the story didn't end there. Because God made a promise. You will not build this house, but your son will. In that moment, the dream didn't die. It was passed on. And David didn't walk away. He didn't give up. Instead, he did something even more powerful. He started preparing everything: the gold, the silver, the materials, the plans. Piece by piece, he gathered what his son would one day need. He would not see the temple, but he would make sure it could be built. And without realizing it, David wasn't just preparing a building. He was setting the stage for something far greater than himself. Then came the son. Not a warrior, not a conqueror, not a man shaped by battle. His name was Solomon, and from the very beginning, he was different. Where David fought, Solomon listened. Where David conquered, Solomon built. And when the weight of an entire kingdom was placed on his shoulders, he didn't ask for power. He asked for wisdom, not wealth, not long life, not victory over his enemies, just understanding. And that changed everything. Because in that one decision, Solomon became more than a king. He became the one person capable of finishing what his father had started. The responsibility was enormous. A promise from God. A vision prepared over a lifetime. A task no one had ever accomplished before. This wouldn't just be another structure. This would be the place where heaven and earth would meet. And Solomon knew it had to be perfect. So he began to plan, carefully, strategically. Nothing rushed, nothing random. Every detail mattered, every measurement had purpose. This wasn't just architecture, this was obedience. But even a king like Solomon couldn't do it alone. He reached beyond his borders, forming an alliance with a powerful ruler, Hiram. From distant lands came cedar wood, the finest materials, resources that Israel itself could not provide. The scale of the project grew larger by the day. And then the work began, not with noise, not with chaos, but with control. Massive stones were cut far away from the construction site. Timber was prepared in distant forests, every piece shaped, refined, and made ready before it ever touched the foundation. Because when it came time to build, there would be something unusual. No hammer, no iron tools, no sound, just silence. As if the entire project was set apart from the world itself. Thousands of workers moved with precision, every motion intentional, every step part of something bigger than themselves. And slowly, piece by piece, the temple began to rise. Not as a monument to a king, but as a dwelling for God. What started as a vision was now becoming reality. This was no ordinary construction. This was one of the largest, most ambitious projects the ancient world had ever seen. Tens of thousands of men moved across the land with a single purpose. 70,000 carriers, 80,000 stone cutters, thousands more overseeing every detail. An entire nation mobilized for one mission. But here's what made it different. You couldn't hear it. No hammer striking, no metal clashing, no sound of construction echoing through the hills. Because every stone was cut somewhere else. Far from the site, deep in the quarries, massive blocks were carved with precision, each one shaped perfectly, measured exactly, prepared in silence. By the time they arrived, they didn't need to be forced into place. They fit perfectly, like the entire structure had already been designed before it ever existed. And then there was the wood. Not just any wood. Cedar, brought from distant lands, floated across the sea, transported mile after mile until it reached Jerusalem. Strong, fragrant, resistant to decay. The kind of material you used when you were building something meant to last, something sacred. And as the structure began to rise, something else became clear. This wasn't just about size. It was about detail. Every wall, lined with gold. Every surface, carefully crafted. Every corner, intentional. Gold covered the interior, reflecting light in a way that made the entire space feel alive. Not dark, not heavy, but radiant, almost otherworldly. And inside, at the very center, was the most important place of all. The inner sanctuary, a space set apart from everything else. A place no ordinary person could enter. A place designed for one purpose only, the presence of God. Two massive cherubim stood within, their wings stretched wide, overshadowing the sacred space. Everything about it pointed to one truth. This was not a place for man. This was a place for God. And yet, it was built by human hands. Day after day, year after year, the work continued. 7 years in total. Not rushed, not careless. Every phase completed with patience, every detail inspected. Because this wasn't just a project you finished. This was something you prepared for. And the longer it went on, the more it began to feel like something bigger was happening. Something beyond stone and wood. Because think about it, thousands of people working together in silence. No chaos, no confusion, no disorder, just purpose. It was as if the entire nation understood that they were part of something sacred, that what they were building wasn't just for their generation, but for something eternal. And slowly, the temple took shape. Walls rose, chambers formed. The sanctuary stood complete. From the outside, it was impressive. But from the inside, it was breathtaking. Light touched the gold and scattered in every direction. Shadows disappeared. Everything glowed. It didn't feel like a building. It felt like a threshold, a place where something unseen could become real. And finally, after 7 long years, it was finished. Every stone in place, every beam secured, every detail complete. No shortcuts, no compromises. Exactly as it was meant to be. But here's the thing, all of it. The planning, the labor, and the years of effort. It wasn't the climax, it was only preparation. Because the real question was never about the building. The real question was, would God come? The temple was finished. After 7 years of silence, precision, and relentless focus, it stood complete. Every stone in place, every surface covered in gold, every detail exactly as it had been planned. From the outside, it was magnificent. But what was about to happen would make everything else seem small. Because now, it was time. The day had come to bring in the ark, the most sacred object in all of Israel, the symbol of God's covenant, the place where his presence had once rested. Carefully, slowly, the priests lifted it and began to move. Step by step, they carried it into the temple, into the inner sanctuary, into the space that had been prepared for this moment. Everything held its breath. The crowd watched. The priests moved in silence. The air felt heavy, like something unseen was drawing near. And then, it happened. A cloud. At first, it was subtle, almost unnoticeable. But within moments, it began to grow, filling the temple, spreading through the sanctuary, moving beyond what anyone could control. The priests tried to continue, but they couldn't. They had to stop, because the presence of God had filled the house. This wasn't symbolic. This wasn't imagined. This was real. The glory was so overwhelming, so powerful that no one could stand in it. The very place built for God was now consumed by him. And in that moment, everything changed. All the years of preparation, all the silent work, all the effort poured into every stone suddenly made sense. This was why it had been built. Not for beauty, not for history, not even for worship, but for this, for the moment when heaven touched earth. And outside before the entire nation stood the king, watching, taking it all in, understanding something few people ever would. This was never about him. It was never about the kingdom. It was about God, choosing to be present among his people. The temple was complete, but more importantly, it was filled. And then, in the middle of the silence, the king stepped forward. Solomon stood before the altar, in front of the entire nation. The temple was filled with glory. The presence of God was undeniable. And yet, instead of celebrating, he knelt, not as a king, but as a man. Slowly, he lifted his hands toward heaven, not in power, but in surrender. And then he spoke.
Behold,
not with
the
pride,
heaven and the
not with
heaven of
certainty,
heavens.
but with
There is
humility.
no God like the
Lord,
Lord.
there is
in
no
heaven
God like you,
or
in
earth.
heaven above or on earth below. He didn't ask for wealth. He didn't ask for victory. He didn't
Oh,
ask
Lord,
for more. He asked
we
for
know that
mercy.
your people are broken.
When your people fail,
and we
when they turn away, when they fall into sin, and then return to you, hear them. The entire prayer was not about perfection. It was about forgiveness, about broken people coming back, about a God willing to listen. And Solomon understood something most people miss. This temple, no matter how beautiful, could never contain God. The heavens, even the highest heavens, cannot contain you.
God to remain close.
How much less this temple I have built.
Prayers of the people
And yet,
when they turn
he asked
from his
anyway,
house.
that God would hear, that God would respond, that God would remain close. Because in the end, the temple was not the destination. It was the meeting place between human weakness and divine mercy. And yet, today, that temple is gone. The gold, gone. The walls, gone. The very place where heaven once touched earth, reduced to history. But the question it leaves behind is still alive. Because the story was never really about the building. It was about what it represented. A place prepared for the presence of God. And that raises a question for every generation.
Let me help you up.
If you were given the chance to build something for God,
See that right
What
there?
would you build?
That is courage.
not with stone, not with gold, not with human strength, but with your life. Because in the end, the greatest temple was never meant to be made by hands. It was meant to be lived.